In the endless darkness of space, the U.S. Horizon drifted quietly. It was a sleek, powerful ship, built to explore and protect. On board, the crew worked hard but calmly. Commander Daniel Hayes walked onto the bridge, his steady gaze moving across the glowing screens and blinking lights. Everything seemed normal. Too normal. For days, there had been nothing. No planets, no ships, no surprises. Space stretched out endlessly around them, cold and silent. Suddenly, a strange sound crackled through the speakers. It was faint at first, like static on an old radio. Lieutenant Rachel Brooks, who handled communications, turned her head sharply. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried to clean up the noise. At first, it was just a jumble of sounds, hard to understand. But then, words began to emerge. Help. Under attack. The voice was weak, trembling with fear. Then came another phrase, repeated over and over. Beware the swarm. Rachel's heart raced. She leaned closer to her screen, trying to make sense of the message. It was a distress signal, coming from somewhere far away in an uncharted part of space. She looked up at Commander Hayes, who had stepped closer. "Sir," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "It's a distress call. Someone, or something, is in trouble. They're warning us about the swarm." Hayes frowned. He studied the navigation display, which showed where the signal was coming from. It was deep in an area humans rarely visited. No colonies, no known alien civilizations, just empty space. Whoever sent this signal was either lost or desperate. Hayes thought for a moment. Ignoring a cry for help wasn't an option, but going to investigate could be dangerous. Finally, he made his decision. "Set a course for the signal's origin," he ordered. "We'll check it out. Stay sharp. This might not be safe." The engines hummed as the horizon changed direction, speeding toward the mysterious signal. The mood on the bridge shifted. The calm routine was gone, replaced by quiet tension. Everyone focused on their tasks, preparing for whatever they might find. Rachel kept working on the signal, trying to learn more. She managed to narrow down its location, a small, lifeless star system with a few rocky planets orbiting a dim sun. There were no signs of human activity or familiar alien technology. Something out there didn't belong. Hours passed as the horizon traveled deeper into the unknown. Finally, the ship dropped out of hyperspace, arriving near a dark, barren planet. Scanners swept the area, searching for anything unusual. That's when they saw it, a derelict spacecraft floating silently in the void. Its surface was scarred with strange burn marks, as if it had been attacked by something fierce. The design was alien, unlike anything the crew had ever encountered. Hayes gave the order. "Prepare a boarding party. Let's see what we're dealing with." A team of officers suited up, checking their equipment one last time before heading to the airlock. As they prepared to leave the safety of the horizon, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something much bigger than they realized. The words from the distress signal echoed in her mind. Beware the swarm. Whatever that meant, she had a bad feeling they were about to find out. The boarding party moved cautiously through the airlock of the alien ship, their helmets glowing faintly in the dim light. Lieutenant Nathan Cole led the team, his hand resting on the grip of his weapon as he scanned the eerie corridors ahead. The air inside was stale and cold, carrying a strange metallic smell that none of them could identify. The walls were covered in odd symbols and patterns, glowing faintly in shades of green and blue. It was clear this ship belonged to an advanced civilization, but one that had clearly met a terrible fate. As they ventured deeper, the silence became oppressive. There were no signs of life, only scattered debris and broken equipment. Panels hung loose from the walls, wires sparking faintly. At one point, Nathan stopped abruptly, holding up his hand to signal the others. On the floor lay what appeared to be the remains of an alien creature. Its body was insect-like, with multiple limbs and a hard chitinous exoskeleton. But it wasn't intact, it had been torn apart, its insides spilling out onto the floor. The sight sent a chill down everyone's spine. "Looks like they didn't go down without a fight," muttered Private Lisa Grant, her voice trembling slightly over the comms. Nathan nodded, though he didn't say anything. He motioned for the team to keep moving. They needed answers, and fast. Further into the ship, they found more evidence of violence. Doors were smashed open, control panels shattered, and dark stains coated the floors, some kind of residue left behind by whatever had attacked. In one room, they discovered a bank of monitors still flickering weakly. Lieutenant Emma Wright, who specialized in alien technology, stepped forward to examine them. With some effort, she managed to activate a playback function. Grainy footage began to play, showing frantic aliens running through the ship's corridors while screaming warnings in a language none of them understood. Behind them, shadowy figures swarmed, hordes of insectoid creatures with razor-sharp claws and glowing eyes. The aliens tried to fight back, firing weapons that emitted bursts of bright energy, but the swarm overwhelmed them quickly. Nathan clenched his jaw as he watched the horrifying scene unfold. "This is bad," he muttered under his breath. Whatever these things were, they were relentless and deadly. He signaled for the team to leave the room and head back to the horizon. They had seen enough. But just as they turned to go, a low hum filled the air. It grew louder, vibrating through the walls and floor. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the corridor. Nathan froze, his instincts screaming at him that something was wrong. Then, without warning, the ship shuddered violently, throwing the team off balance. Alarms blared inside their helmets, and a voice crackled over the comms. "Boarding party, we've got trouble. Multiple contacts approaching your position." Back on the horizon, panic spread across the bridge. Sensors had detected dozens of objects closing in on their location at incredible speed. Rachel Brooks stared at her screen, her hands trembling as she worked to identify the incoming threat. "They're drones," she shouted. "Hundreds of them, maybe thousands." Commander Hayes wasted no time. "All hands, prepare for evasive maneuvers. Get the boarding party back here now." The ship's engines roared to life as it pulled away from the derelict vessel. But the drones were faster than expected, swarming around the horizon like angry insects. Sparks flew as the first wave of attackers slammed into the ship's hull, attempting to breach its defenses. On board the alien ship, Nathan and his team sprinted toward the airlock, dodging falling debris and the occasional burst of sparks. Their hearts pounded as the hum grew louder, accompanied by skittering sounds echoing through the corridors. Something, or someone, was following them. Nathan glanced over his shoulder and saw movement in the shadows. His blood ran cold. "Move faster," he barked, pushing the team ahead of him. Finally, they'd reached the airlock and scrambled aboard the horizon, just as the drones began to tear into the derelict ship. The crew sealed the hatch and braced themselves as the horizon jumped into hyperspace, leaving the chaos behind. But no one felt safe. They had escaped, for now. But the memory of those swarming creatures lingered in their minds. Whatever they had stumbled upon, it was far from over. The U.S. horizon emerged from hyperspace, its crew breathing a collective sigh of relief as the ship's engines hummed steadily. For a moment, it seemed like they had escaped the swarm, but that relief was short-lived. Scanners showed that several drones had latched onto the ship's hull during their frantic retreat. These mechanical insects were small but dangerous, burrowing into the metal with sharp claws and emitting strange, pulsing lights. If they weren't dealt with quickly, they could breach the ship's defenses. Commander Hayes acted fast. "Engineering, I need a damage report." "Security team, prepare to neutralize those drones." His voice was calm but firm, cutting through the tension on the bridge. Lieutenant Nathan Cole, who had just returned from the alien ship, volunteered to lead the effort. He gathered a small team and suited up, ready to face the threat outside. As they stepped into the airlock, Nathan couldn't shake the image of the swarm from his mind. The footage they had seen on the alien ship haunted him, those relentless creatures swarming over everything in their path. He knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The team exited the ship and moved carefully along the hull, their magnetic boots keeping them grounded. The drones were easy to spot. Their glowing bodies stood out against the dark metal. Each one looked like a mix of machine and insect, with spindly legs and sharp pincers. They moved with eerie precision, tearing at the ship's armor as if searching for something. Nathan signaled for his team to spread out. Using plasma torches and handheld weapons, they began disabling the drones one by one. The creatures fought back fiercely, their pincers snapping and sparks flying as they resisted. It was a dangerous job, but the crew worked together, staying focused despite the chaos. Back inside the ship, Rachel Brooks monitored the situation from the bridge. Her screen displayed every movement on the hull, tracking both the crew and the remaining drones. She relayed updates to Commander Hayes, her voice steady even as her hands trembled slightly. 3 drones left, she called out. 2 near the aft section, 1 near the port stabilizer. Nathan heard the update through his helmet comms. He directed his team to split up, ensuring all threats were eliminated quickly. As he approached the final drone near the stabilizer, it suddenly turned toward him, its glowing eyes locking onto his position. Before he could react, it leaped at him, its claws aimed straight for his suit. Nathan fired his weapon instinctively, hitting the creature midair. It exploded in a burst of light, showering him with fragments of metal and energy. By the time the last drone was destroyed, the crew was exhausted but relieved. They returned to the airlock, pulling off their helmets as they stepped back inside. Nathan reported directly to Commander Hayes. "All drones neutralized, sir, but we're lucky they didn't get inside." Hayes nodded, his expression grim. "Good work, Lieutenant, but we can't afford to relax. This isn't just our fight anymore, it's Earth's." News of the encounter reached Earth within hours. General Alan Carter, head of the Galactic Defense Force, convened an emergency meeting with top military leaders. Projectors displayed images of the alien ship, the swarm, and the damage inflicted on the horizon. The room buzzed with tension as Carter addressed the group. "This is a direct threat to humanity," he said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "We don't know how many of these swarms exist or where they'll strike next. But we do know one thing. They're coming. And when they arrive, we need to be ready." He pointed to a holographic map showing Earth's orbital defenses. 2 massive warships floated prominently above the planet, the dreadnoughts Eclipse and Vanguard. These were Earth's most advanced vessels, built to protect humanity from any extraterrestrial threat. Carter argued that now was the time to deploy them. "We can't wait for the swarm to come to us," he continued. "We need to take the fight to them. Use the data from the Horizon's mission to locate their origin and strike before they reach Sol." Not everyone agreed. Some officers worried about rushing into battle without fully understanding the enemy. Others questioned whether humanity was truly prepared for a war on this scale. But Carter's resolve didn't waver. "If we hesitate, we risk losing everything," he said firmly. "Earth's survival depends on us acting now." Admiral Laura Simmons, commander of the fleet, gave the order. The Eclipse and Vanguard would launch immediately, accompanied by smaller support ships. Their mission was clear: find the source of the swarm and eliminate the threat. As plans were finalized and crews prepared for departure, one thing became certain: the galaxy was no longer a safe place. Humanity's greatest test had begun. The preparations for humanity's counterattack were underway. The Eclipse and Vanguard, Earth's most powerful warships, stood ready in orbit, their massive hulls bristling with weapons and advanced technology. Crews worked tirelessly to load supplies, check systems, and ensure every detail was perfect. Lieutenant Emma Wright, a strategist assigned to the Eclipse, spent hours poring over data from the Horizon's encounter. Her mind raced as she studied the swarm's behavior, looking for patterns or weaknesses that could give humanity an edge. Emma had an idea. A risky one, but it might work. She proposed using a modified version of the distress signal that had first drawn the swarm to the alien ship. By broadcasting it across space, they could lure the creatures into a trap. If we make them think there's another target, she explained during a briefing, we can ambush them when they arrive. The plan wasn't without risks. The swarm was fast, overwhelming, and unpredictable. If the trap failed, the fleet would be caught off guard and outnumbered. Captain Joseph Lane of the Vanguard didn't like the idea. A gruff man with years of combat experience, he believed in direct action. Why waste time with tricks? He argued. We have the firepower to hit them head-on. Let's find their main hive and destroy it before they know what's coming. Admiral Laura Simmons listened carefully to both sides. She respected Lane's confidence but saw value in Emma's creativity. After weighing the options, she made her decision. Lieutenant Wright's plan has merit, she said firmly. We don't know enough about this enemy yet. A tactical approach gives us the best chance of success. But Captain Lane, your expertise will be crucial if things go sideways. Be ready to act quickly. With the plan approved, the fleet launched into the void, heading toward the coordinates where the horizon had encountered the swarm. As they traveled, Emma fine-tuned the decoy signal, making it stronger and more convincing. She also ensured the fleet's defenses were prepared for anything. Plasma cannons were charged, missile bays loaded, and fighter squadrons stood by on alert. Everyone knew this mission could define humanity's future. Back on Earth, news of the alien threat spread quickly. People watched live broadcasts of the fleet's departure, their faces filled with a mix of hope and fear. Protests erupted in major cities, with crowds demanding answers from world leaders. Some called for peace talks, though no one knew if the swarm could even communicate. Others urged immediate retaliation, fearing the aliens would attack again. Amid the chaos, General Alan Carter addressed the public, his voice calm but firm. We are not helpless, he said. Earth's defenders are ready. Trust in them, and trust in humanity's strength. As the fleet approached the designated area, tension mounted. The crew aboard the Eclipse and Vanguard stayed focused, running final checks and preparing for battle. Emma sat at her station, her fingers flying across the console as she activated the decoy signal. It pulsed through space, mimicking the original distress call. Then they waited. It didn't take long. Sensors detected movement. Fast, erratic blips appearing on the edges of their range. At first, there were only a few, but soon hundreds turned into thousands. The swarm was responding, just as Emma had predicted. The ship's engines roared as the fleet moved into position, forming a defensive perimeter around the Eclipse, which served as the command center. Through the viewport, Emma watched as the first wave of drones came into view. They were terrifying up close, small, insect-like machines with glowing eyes and razor-sharp claws. They moved in chaotic swarms, surrounding the fleet in moments. Alarms blared as the first shots were fired. Plasma bolts streaked through space, striking down dozens of drones. But for every one destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. Captain Lane's voice crackled over the comms. They're too many. Fall back and regroup. Emma clenched her fists, her heart pounding. This was only the beginning. Whatever happened next, humanity's fate hung in the balance. The battle erupted with a ferocity that no one on the fleet had anticipated. The swarm descended upon the ships like a storm, their glowing bodies filling the void with flashes of light as plasma bolts tore through space. The Eclipse and Vanguard fired relentlessly, their cannons roaring as they tried to hold back the endless tide of drones. Smaller support ships darted around the larger vessels, providing cover fire while launching missiles that exploded in bursts of energy, wiping out clusters of the creatures. But for every drone destroyed, more seemed to pour in from the darkness. Emma Wright gripped the edge of her console, her knuckles white, as she watched the chaos unfold on the monitors. The swarm was overwhelming, its numbers seemingly limitless. Her decoy signal had worked too well. The enemy was fully committed to attacking. She glanced at Admiral Simmons, who stood calmly on the bridge, issuing orders with precision. Keep firing. Don't let them breach our defenses," the Admiral commanded, her voice cutting through the noise. Captain Joseph Lane's Vanguard took the brunt of the assault. Its massive hull absorbed hit after hit, shielding the smaller ships behind it. Despite the damage, Lane refused to retreat. "Hold your ground," he barked over the comms. His crew worked tirelessly, manning weapon stations and repairing critical systems as sparks flew across the ship's interior. The Vanguard's main cannon fired a devastating blast, obliterating a large group of drones. But it wasn't enough to stop the swarm. Amid the chaos, Emma noticed something odd. The drones weren't acting randomly. They moved with eerie coordination, as if guided by a single mind. She quickly ran simulations on her console, analyzing their patterns. Her eyes widened as she realized what was happening. "Admiral," she shouted, "the swarm is controlled by a central hive mind. If we can disrupt it, we might be able to break their coordination." Simmons nodded sharply. "Do it. Now." Emma sprang into action, working with the engineering team to activate an EMP burst, a powerful electromagnetic pulse designed to disable electronic systems. It was risky. Using such a weapon could leave the fleet vulnerable for a short time. But they had no choice. As the swarm closed in, Emma initiated the sequence. A blinding flash of energy rippled outward from the eclipse, engulfing the battlefield. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the swarm faltered. Drones froze mid-flight, their glowing lights flickering before going dark. Hundreds of them drifted lifelessly in space, their connection to the hive mind severed. Cheers erupted on the bridge as the crew realized the plan had worked, at least temporarily. The fleet seized the opportunity, launching a counterattack against the now disorganized swarm. Plasma cannons roared, and missile barrages lit up the darkness as the humans pressed their advantage. But the victory was short-lived. Sensors soon detected movement deeper in space, massive shapes emerging from the shadows. High ships, each one larger than the Eclipse or Vanguard, loomed menacingly in the distance. These were the source of the swarm, colossal factories spawning wave after wave of drones. Captain Lane cursed under his breath. "This isn't over," he growled. "We need to take those hives out, or we're finished." Emma studied the readings, her mind racing. One of the high ships was closer than the others, positioned near the center of the swarm. "That's the primary target," she said, pointing to the screen. "If we can destroy it, we might collapse the entire network." Admiral Simmons didn't hesitate. "Vanguard, prepare nuclear missiles. Aim for the heart of that hive." The Vanguard surged forward, dodging swarms of reactivated drones as its crew worked frantically to load the payload. Captain Lane's voice was steady but urgent. "Fire all tubes," he ordered. A salvo of nuclear-tipped missiles streaked toward the high ship, trailing bright plumes of exhaust. When they hit, the explosion was catastrophic, a blinding sphere of fire that consumed the hive and sent shockwaves rippling through space. Dozens of smaller ships were caught in the blast, disintegrating instantly. For a moment, it seemed like the tide had turned, but the remaining high ships began moving, retaliating with devastating force. The Vanguard sustained heavy damage, its shields failing as explosions rocked the ship. On the bridge, alarms screamed as smoke filled the air. "All hands, abandon ship," Lane ordered, his voice cracking with emotion. He stayed behind, ensuring his crew escaped before the Vanguard succumbed to the flames. As the surviving forces regrouped aboard the Eclipse, Emma stared at the wreckage, her heart heavy. They had won this round, but at great cost. The war was far from over, and humanity would need every ounce of courage to survive what came next. The Eclipse limped back toward Earth, its crew battered but alive. The loss of the Vanguard weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Captain Joseph Lane had stayed behind to ensure his crew escaped, and though his sacrifice saved countless lives, it left a void that couldn't easily be filled. Lieutenant Emma Wright sat in her quarters, staring at the data from the battle. She replayed the events over and over in her mind, searching for answers. What had they missed? How could they have done better? On the bridge, Admiral Laura Simmons stood quietly, watching the stars through the viewport. Her expression was calm, but her thoughts were turbulent. The fleet had survived, yes, but at a terrible price. The swarm wasn't just an enemy. It was a force unlike anything humanity had ever faced. And now, with the Vanguard destroyed and the Eclipse damaged, Earth's defenses were weaker than ever. Simmons knew they needed more than courage to win this war. They needed strategy, innovation, and unity. When the fleet finally returned to Earth, they were greeted not with cheers but with silence. The people of Earth had seen the broadcasts, the destruction, the sacrifices, the sheer scale of the threat. Crowds gathered outside military bases and government buildings, holding signs that read "Protect us" and "No more losses." General Alan Carter addressed the United Nations once again, his voice firm but tinged with urgency. "We cannot face this enemy divided," he said. "If we are to survive, humanity must stand together as one planet, one people." Emma attended the meeting, her presence requested by Admiral Simmons. As she walked into the chamber, she felt the weight of countless eyes on her. World leaders leaned forward in their seats, eager to hear what she had to say. Emma took a deep breath and began speaking. "The swarm is relentless," she explained. "They attack without mercy, and they adapt quickly. But they have one weakness: their hive mind. If we can target their central control systems, we can break them apart. That's how we won the last battle." But barely. Her words sparked debate among the leaders. Some argued for immediate retaliation, launching every available ship to hunt down the remaining hives. Others called for caution, insisting that humanity wasn't ready for another fight. Emma listened patiently, then added, "We need time to rebuild and prepare, but we also need to act soon. The swarm won't wait for us to catch up." Admiral Simmons stepped in, reinforcing Emma's message. "Lieutenant Wright is right," she said. "This isn't just about firepower, it's about intelligence. We've learned how they operate, and we've proven we can hurt them. But we need more ships, more resources, and more coordination if we're going to win." As the meeting concluded, plans were set in motion. Factories across the globe ramped up production, building new warships and advanced weapon systems. Scientists worked around the clock, studying the wreckage of the alien drones to understand their technology. Meanwhile, recruitment drives brought thousands of volunteers into the Galactic Defense Force, each one determined to protect Earth. Back aboard the Eclipse, Emma reflected on all that had happened. The faces of her fallen comrades haunted her dreams, but so did the faces of those who had fought alongside her. Humanity had shown resilience, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Yet Emma knew the hardest battles were still ahead. The swarm hadn't been defeated, they had only been slowed. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of known space, the hive mind still existed, waiting and watching. She clenched her fists, resolve hardening within her. Whatever came next, she would be ready. Earth's survival depended on it, and so did the future of humanity. The months that followed were a blur of activity. Earth transformed into a fortress, its skies filled with newly constructed warships, and its surface bristling with orbital defenses. The lessons learned from the first encounter with the swarm shaped humanity's strategy. Factories worked day and night, churning out advanced weapons and technology. Scientists studied every piece of alien wreckage, unlocking secrets that would give humanity an edge in the coming battles. Lieutenant Emma Wright became a key figure in this effort, her tactical mind helping to refine strategies and develop new tools for the fight. Admiral Laura Simmons oversaw the growing fleet, ensuring that every ship was ready for war. She pushed the crews hard, knowing that the next confrontation could decide the fate of Earth. "We don't have the luxury of mistakes," she told her officers during one briefing. "Every decision we make has to be perfect. Every shot we fire has to count." Her words resonated deeply with the men and women under her command, who trained tirelessly to prepare for what lay ahead. General Alan Carter addressed the world again, his tone more resolute than ever. Standing before the United Nations, he declared, "This is not just a battle for Earth. It's a battle for our place among the stars. We've dreamed of exploring the galaxy, but now we must defend it. Together, we will face this threat and emerge stronger." As preparations continued, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The swarm hadn't attacked again, but their silence was unnerving. It was as if they were regrouping, rebuilding, waiting for the right moment to strike. Scans of deep space revealed nothing. No movement, no signals, but Emma knew better than to trust appearances. The hive mind was patient, calculating. When it returned, it would come with overwhelming force. One evening, Emma stood on the observation deck of the Eclipse, staring at the stars. Behind her, Admiral Simmons approached quietly. "You've done good work, Lieutenant," she said, breaking the silence. Emma turned, surprised. "Thank you, Admiral," she replied. "But I can't stop thinking about what's coming. We're stronger now, but so are they." Simmons nodded, her expression thoughtful. "War changes everyone, Emma. It forces us to grow, to adapt. What matters is how we respond when the moment comes. And when that moment arrives, I know you'll be ready." Emma took those words to heart. She spent her days refining tactics, running simulations, and training with the crew. Her nights were restless, haunted by dreams of swarms descending upon Earth, unstoppable and merciless. But each morning, she woke with renewed determination. Humanity had faced challenges before, and they had always found a way to endure. Finally, the call came. Deep space sensors detected movement, a massive fleet approaching from the outer reaches of the galaxy. The swarm was back, larger and more dangerous than ever. Alarms sounded across Earth as the fleet scrambled into action. Ships launched from orbit, joining together in a vast armada. The Eclipse led the charge, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. As the two forces closed in on each other, Emma gave the order to broadcast the decoy signal once more. This time, it wasn't meant to lure the swarm into a trap. It was a distraction, buying precious seconds for the fleet to position itself. Plasma cannons charged, missiles locked onto targets, and fighter squadrons deployed, streaking through space like streaks of lightning. The battle that followed was unlike anything humanity had seen before. Explosions lit up the void as ships clashed, drones swarmed, and energy weapons tore through the darkness. But this time, humanity fought not just with courage but with strategy. They targeted the hive ships relentlessly, focusing fire on their weak points. One by one, the colossal vessels fell, their destruction sending shockwaves through the swarm. Yet even as the tide turned, Emma knew the fight wasn't over. The hive mind still existed somewhere deeper in space, watching, learning. As the surviving ships regrouped, she made a silent vow. Humanity would stand firm, no matter the cost. For centuries, they had dreamed of reaching the stars. Now, they would protect them, at any price.